This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below.
Well, we talked about how Jameis was going to be a up and down player and give you some unbalanced performances this year. This was certainly an example of that, right? Last week, he gives you a 3-touchdown, 300-yard performance. This week, he gives you a 3-interception performance. Anybody who's followed Jameis knows that he's capable of both. He's capable of giving you that spectacular game. He's capable of giving you an awful game. And so far, 2 games in the Jameis Winston experience, we have witnessed both of those things. If this game proved anything, is that Jameis Winston is going to be Jameis Winston, right? Like, you're going to get the Jameis stuff. He's not going to completely transform and turn himself into a new person. I told you that on the film review. I'm like, hey, you just got to expect Jameis to be Jameis. And this is part of the Jameis Winston experience, not experiment, my bad. And I think that's all fair and good and all. Let's talk about why the Browns lost this game. And look, Jameis throwing 3 interceptions is not something that I didn't expect out of a Jameis Winston to do eventually. So it's not the most concerning thing. I'm not shocked that he threw 3 interceptions. I am shocked that he did it in this game. But him throwing 3 interceptions in a game that's happened, 14 times before with Jameis Winston. I think the more concerning thing to me is the run game performance in this game was pretty bad. Browns ran the ball, 16, 17, 18, 19 times with a running back. They ran it 24 times, including Jameis's 5 scrambles. Nick Chubb went 15 carries, 39 yards. It's 2.6 yards per carry. It's really, really bad, especially for Nick Chubb, who averages career-wise double that. Pierre Strong, 2 carries, 8 yards, 4 yards a carry. And then Jerome Ford, 2 carries, 5 yards, 2.5 yards a carry coming off of injury. And the thing that's concerning about this is how the Chargers played you. The Chargers did not stack the box to stop the run this week. The Chargers were playing a lot of off coverage. They were playing a lot of quarters coverage. They were giving you the middle of the field and leaving 6 to 5 guys in the box to run the ball against, and we just could not win consistently on the line of scrimmage with that. It's a concern for Nick Chubb. It's a concern for every of those running backs, but more importantly, it's a concern for the offensive line that in that situation, you weren't able to win and consistently create rush lanes. That was going to be the Browns' best pathway to victory, was being able to force the Chargers out of these cover 4 looks, which would let Jameis get some plays downfield. But since you didn't do that and execute in the run game, Jameis had to throw the ball 46 times into cover 4 coverage, and it turned into a ton of interceptions. Jameis in this game, a lot more hesitant than he was last week. Was not as accurate as he was last week. We know Jameis is an inconsistent player. I call him the J.R. Smith of quarterbacks. I think that is a pretty apt description, right? Sometimes he's capable of making some great plays. Sometimes he's capable of making you scratch your head and wondering how he ever got out there, right? I think the big number for Jameis that I didn't like about how he played was that 6-sack number, right? He took 6 sacks in this game, which meant he was holding on to the ball way longer. Now, part of this was that the coverage for the Chargers this week was much better in their defense than what he was playing against last week, where the Baltimore secondary, which already is not good, was also playing injured. And he took advantage of that. The Chargers secondary, not injured. The lanes weren't as wide open, and he made more mistakes, and he obviously held the ball longer and threw into coverage and took sacks here. So Jameis, I think he had a pretty poor game. 26 of 46, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Just not a great game. Taking those 6 sacks too. You don't want that. Like, if you're going to be that low yield, you can also take sacks and be behind the line of scrimmage. The one bright spot in this game, I guess 2, because Jerry Jeudy somehow got to 70 yards as well. But Cedric Tillman, I thought, was the closest thing this offense had to having a playmaker all game. Playmaking was something that was just completely absent for this Cleveland Browns team for most of the game. Cedric Tillman was the only one coming close to making a play, had a nice touchdown catch at the end of the game. The only kind of yak plays were from Cedric Tillman in this one in the middle of the field. He had 6 receptions, 75 yards, a touchdown, a long of 17. Jerry Jeudy, 7 receptions, 73 yards, and a long of 13. But I think a lot of what Jerry Jeudy did was just like, at the end of the game, what the defense was allowing you to have, because they just didn't want to give up a big play downfield. I think Cedric Tillman's yardage was a little bit more contested than that. So not like sliding Jerry Jeudy or anything, just saying I think what Cedric Tillman did in this game was a lot more impressive and more worthy of praise here. Let's talk about the Browns defense for a quick minute here, because I thought the line of scrimmage played well. I thought the secondary really just kept making the same mistake. And I don't know if it's cover 2, if it's cover 6 or whatever it was that they were fucking up, but they kept messing up this coverage between Juan Thornhill and Denzel Ward. And the thing that's infuriating about this, if you've watched the Browns for any period of time, is this is not the first time that Denzel Ward and Juan Thornhill, or whoever's playing the safety, a couple of years ago was John Johnson III, can't figure out who's high, who's low in zone coverage. The reason I have to lean towards thinking this is Denzel Ward's fault is because Denzel Ward is the only corner on the roster where this consistently happens to. Like, we can go all the way back to 2021 and point out, like, hey, Denzel Ward and then John Johnson or whoever the safety is, they're not communicating. Somebody's high, somebody's low, and then who's supposed to be back there? This does not happen to Greg Newsome. This does not happen to Martin Emerson a ton, but it happens like at least 4 times a year to Denzel Ward specifically. So I have to think it's Denzel Ward, right? Like, that's the guy who's making these mistakes. And Denzel, I thought, had a really poor first half of this game. I thought he played much better in the second half, but in that first half, he was responsible for giving up like 14 points. And 14 points, the Browns lose by 17. It would be a completely different game if you didn't give up those big plays there. And those weren't just big plays because you gave up a touchdown. Those are big plays because the Browns defense and the defensive line did a great job of forcing the Los Angeles Chargers into an obvious punt situation on both of those situations. The both times that you gave up the busted coverage touchdown, right? The Browns were, I think, in 3rd and 22 in one of them. I think they were in like 3rd and 15 on the other one. You were primed to get a punt or a super long field goal attempt in those spots, and then you gave up 2 touchdowns. Absolutely unacceptable. And look, Jameis Winston is a backup quarterback at the end of the day. He's not somebody that we expect to play at a franchise quarterback level on a consistent basis. Like, you just expect Jameis Winston to throw the ball up, give people a chance to make a play and do whatever with it. So I can't sit here and like point my finger at Jameis, act like he's the most disappointing thing this week. He was not good, mind you. Like, he's not that good. He was not that good in this game, but the most disappointing thing in this game had to be the defensive performance in the first half. Did they do a good job of holding the Chargers to 20 in the second half? Sure. But this game was going to be a defensive battle coming in, and the Browns defense did not even give themselves a chance to win this battle. Now, would the offensive come through? I don't know. I don't think so. Right? The offense was really bad this week, on top of the Chargers defense playing really good. So maybe this isn't a game you win even if things go your way. But you still should have had more of a chance to show up in this one than you did, right? I think a lot of the Browns' offense's issues kind of stem back to not being able to run the ball versus light boxes. Like, that's a real concern. Like, they were in light boxes. They don't have the heaviest linebackers. We should be able to run the ball when they're consistently in quarters coverage. defensively, I mean, like, you did a good job against them outside of those busted coverage plays. But you can't write off the busted coverage plays as if they did not happen. They happened, and they happened because of Denzel Ward. And this is like every year we're talking about Denzel Ward having a game or two like this where, like, he just completely forgets who's over top and where the zone coverage is. Every year it happens. It's a thing that happens every year with Denzel Ward. And it's a thing that happens every year with this Browns defense for whatever reason. We just give up these busted coverage plays, sometimes at a higher frequency than others. Now, how much do I take away from this on like some of the bigger picture questions, right? Should Ken Dorsey be the play caller going forward? Should Jameis continue to be the starter going forward? All of these other issues that the Browns have going on. I don't know if I can take large things from this game. What we have right now from the Browns playing without Deshaun Watson is one great offensive performance versus the Baltimore Ravens and one bad offensive performance versus the Chargers. Now, it's worth noting the Chargers, much stronger defense than the Baltimore Ravens, right? The Baltimore Ravens, their secondary has been weak all year, and they were injured. So it made sense that you were able to throw the ball on the Baltimore Ravens. And on some level, it made sense that you weren't going to be able to have the same level of passing success versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Still doesn't make any of the 3 interceptions that Jameis threw like acceptable because they were all bad interceptions. Like none of those interceptions, I was like, that's bad luck. Like they were all inaccurate passes by Jameis, so he deserves full credit for every interception that he threw. But you just look at this game, and the main thing that concerns me is that we could not run the ball versus these light boxes. Like, is Nick Chubb going to get that burst back soon enough for it to matter for this season? I don't know. It didn't look great in this one. Jerome Ford only getting 2 carries and only getting 5 yards with those 2 carries is concerning. The run blocking performance from what is a pretty healthy offensive line, right? Jack Conklin was back. Wyatt Teller is back. Ethan Posick is back. You have a left guard, Joe Bitonio. He's healthy. And then you had your pick of the litter at left tackle between DeJuan Jones and Jedrick Wills. You should have been much better at being, you got a healthy Jeff Swain. You got a healthy David Njoku. Yeah, like you were too healthy on the line of scrimmage here to not be able to run the ball versus light boxes. And they just could not conjure any success on the ground this week. That to me is the most concerning takeaway from this game. I give credit to the Chargers secondary for showing up, and I give blame to Jameis for making some bad decisions while that secondary was showing up. But that's all in the realm of what you expect from a backup quarterback when he's playing. And at the end of the day, Jameis is a backup quarterback, right? I don't think anybody in their right mind was like trying to say that Jameis is going to be the franchise quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Even I said it in the video after he had the 300-yard performance. Still got to focus on the next 2 draft classes to get your franchise guy for the future. So that is what it is. But you do expect Nick Chubb to be able to do something in that situation on his 3rd game back. You do expect Jerome Ford to be more useful than 2 carries for 5 yards. And more importantly, you expect that offensive line to be able to run block more effectively than that, right? Being shut down by 5 and 6 in the box. I think that's the most discouraging thing about this all. We'll see how the Browns finish out the season. The playoffs are a reach at this point. It's not impossible. They're not mathematically eliminated. And that's important to note, but it's a reach at this point, right? Like it would take a lot for the Browns to make the playoffs here. It would take certainly way more for the Browns to make the playoffs than for them not. But you have to just evaluate what this team is for the rest of the season and what they're able to do. And if we can't figure out how to get this run game going on a consistent basis, you got to make some big changes there. Obviously, we know that changes need to happen at the quarterback position. We knew that Jameis isn't the future of this team. We know Deshaun's not the future of this team anymore. Like, you got to look elsewhere for the future of your team at quarterback, but that's more of a conversation for the draft. The run game right now, you got to start answering some tough questions, right? Nick Chubb, I thought last week showed some signs of playing better. This week, it's a little bit more concerning. He got ran down a couple of times. Didn't look like he had the ability to get that burst. Like, I'm starting to be concerned about that. It's been 3 weeks. But I'm not going to freak out there. You saw some good signs from some of your young wide receivers. Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman played well. But again, like, are these guys number one receivers? Or are they just nice receivers to have? Because the entire third quarter, we needed somebody offensively to make a play, and we had nobody to lean on to make a play. And that includes David Njoku, who was pretty pedestrian in this game as well as a blocker and as a receiver. The question for the Browns offense is, who's the playmaker? Are they going to have a playmaker in this offense? Is it Cedric Tillman? If it is, then we need to get him the ball more often. But right now, this Browns offense does not have a playmaker, and that's a big problem. Like, Nick Chubb's not a playmaker right now. He's somebody who can do well with the play in front of him, but he's not a playmaker. Jameis, not a playmaker. Cedric Tillman, maybe a playmaker. Jerry Jeudy, not really a playmaker, right? Jordan Atkins, not a playmaker. David Njoku, you would hope would be a playmaker based on what he did last year, but he's not a playmaker right now. You need playmakers on offense. You need guys who are able to make something happen when it's tough, right? And the Chargers defense made things tough, but we didn't have anybody willing to make plays. You look at the Chargers on the other side of the ball. They were able to make those plays happen. Josh Palmer on the back shoulder ball, beautiful throw by Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's a playmaker. He made something happen. J.K. Dobbins, the Browns were suffocating the run all game, but found a way to make a play at the end of the game and score that touchdown. He's a playmaker. The Browns got to figure out who's going to make these plays. Like, they did not play make in this game at all, offensively or defensively. Other than Myles Garrett, he had like 3 sacks in this game, right? But in that secondary, we didn't have a playmaker. And then on the offense, we didn't have a playmaker. And all the playmakers, they were wearing blue and white today. They were wearing Chargers on their helmet, right? They were on the Los Angeles Chargers. We didn't have a single playmaker on offense today. I think that's the most disappointing thing. Quentin Johnson, 4 receptions, 110 yards, right? The Browns have some solid players. The Browns have some good players who could fit a role really well. But we really got to start asking, like, hey, are our playmakers going to start making plays soon? This game, no plays from your playmakers. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm concerned about. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.